Can ISIS ever be defeated? What drives their evil ideology? And should Muslims do more to speak out against these radical Islamic terrorists? Joining us for some answers is someone who has witnessed firsthand the deep conflict between Islamic jihadists and Western intelligence services. Morten Storm is a former jihadist who became an Al-Qaeda agent, but after months of soul-searching, he renounced Islam and became a double agent, joining the CIA and Britain's intelligence services as a spy. He has written a book about his intriguing life called Agent Storm: My Life Inside Al-Qaeda and the CIA. Mr. Storm joins us now from an undisclosed location. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Storm, you converted to Islam in the 1990s. Why did you become a jihadist?
You know, when I converted to Islam, it was more or less a matter of some kind of lack of identity that many young people have in the West. Islam attracted me, gave me some kind of belonging and purpose of life. However, my purpose of converting to Islam was simply to forgive myself and be able to, you know, become a better person. But what I didn't know was that Islam was much more darker than actually what I knew. I only read the good books about Islam, i.e. the books that are meant for propaganda to call or attract other non-Muslims to Islam. I went to Yemen and I studied Islam over there at a Salafi institution up in the north of Yemen in Sada. And that place was very fundamentalistic, and I totally built up my base on my foundation on Islam there. I discovered that jihad was a very much part of Islam, that in fact the Prophet Muhammad said that whoever dies without having fought jihad or have the intention of fighting jihad will die in a state of hypocrisy or even in a state of disbelief. So jihad is the highest peak in Islam. There is nothing compared to it according to worship.
And when you began to study the tenets of Islam closely, you began to identify, you began to understand what it is that drives these radical Muslims around the world. Help our audience, Mr. Morten, understand, in light of the Paris attacks last week, what is it that drives these radical Muslims to do what they did, for example, on the streets of Paris or in Beirut or in Baghdad or anywhere around the world? Help our viewers understand that.
Yeah, well, it's quite simple. It's the devotion to Islam, it's the love for Allah and obeying Him. Look, Islam means submission. It doesn't mean peace, and it can only have peace between Muslims. So, for these people who blew themselves up and did the atrocities in Paris, it's simply to please Allah, and they believe that they having reward from it. You know, Prophet Muhammad ordered the people to fight jihad, and even Allah stated that in the Quran. You know, fight them until there is no more disbelief or fitna, until the religion alone is alone for Allah. So the whole entire world have to convert into Islam. And Prophet Muhammad said, I have been commanded by Allah to fight the people until they testified that there is no God but Allah and I'm His messenger. So Islam is very totalitarian. It's a very hateful and spiteful religion, and that I found out.
And you found out that, and eventually this totalitarian ideology forced you to leave. Why did you leave? Why did you leave Islam?
Well, you know, I was on my way to fight jihad in Somalia in 2006, just about between Christmas and New Year Eve. And my friends over there at that time lost the airport in Mogadishu and called me and said, you know, Murad, that was my Muslim name, you cannot come, we lost the airport. Many of my friends went over there, they fought jihad, some of them have even beheaded prisoners of war. And for me, it was like a blow to my face. You know, it's like a soccer player being selected to play in the World Cup, finals, and being taken off the team just about when he goes into the stadium. So for me, I couldn't understand why Allah always encouraged the Muslims and actually threaten us. If we do not fight jihad, He will replace us with another people. So I was deeply disappointed, and I started to question which was my luck, to be honest. I'm very, very happy and lucky to be alive today to tell you all this story. I Googled contradictions in the Quran, and that's something you cannot do as a Muslim. You cannot you cannot question the Quran because it's literally God's word. They cannot be changed, or God will never contradict himself.
And so you saw these contradictions in Islam, and you began to point them out, and you began to ask questions, because that is, as they say in Islam, that is haram. It's haram to even question the holy books, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's also kufr. Kufr means disbelief. It's kufr al-i'tiqad wa shak. It means that it is disbelief or nifaq shak batini. It means it is nifaq, hidden hypocrisy within yourself, because Allah knows what's inside your mind, what you're thinking, and what's in your heart. So because of that, many Muslims are simply too scared to question their own faith, because they know that Allah will know that.
And so when you began to question Islam, when you began to see the contradictions, what happened? What was the revelation for you, sir?
Oh my God! You know, when I saw the contradictions in the Quran, it totally wiped away my faith. I couldn't believe that for 10 years and almost risked my life. Follow that, indoctrinating, manipulating religion. And I suddenly realized that how dangerous it was. And trust me, most people who practice this do not know how dangerous it is, because they actually believe they're pleasing God. So they cannot see that it's wrong, because they think it's justice. God is just.
You believe America, Europe, and the rest of the world is living in denial about this threat. What do you mean, Mr. Morten?
Well, I am very surprised, and I'm really, especially now, after I have left Islam for many years now, but I'm still studying it, I'm still reading up upon it to follow up and remind myself. We have professors at Islamic science, scholars at King's College, and, in terrorism studies and so on, in London and, around the world, and media, such as the BBC and so on. And these people totally manipulate the truth in the media. And I'm shocked. Why? I'm asking myself, why do they not tell the truth? Islam, I mean, anyone can Google on, what's the meaning of Islam, and they will find out it means submission. But yet those experts have not done that, and they will still say Islam is peaceful. No, this is not the real Islam. In fact, Islam is extremely dangerous if you read it without interpretations. You have to misinterpret the Quran to get it really, really peaceful, and that's almost impossible.
So are you saying that there is a willful decision by the mainstream media, by these intellectuals in academia, by politicians, to purposely misconstrue, to manipulate Islam, to give a picture that Islam is actually peaceful, and you say it is not?
It is not peaceful, and I am putting my word on this. Look, I have a book out. My whole life is in a book. Everyone can discredit me if they can get the proof for it. I am challenging the whole world. I'm trying to prove that Islam is peaceful. It is not. And yesterday I went on another American TV station last night, and I proved it with the Quranic hadith, with the prophets, with the Quranic verses, and also with the hadith, the saying of Prophet Muhammad about, it's permissible to kill civilians. I can bring loads of these verses from the Quran where it encourages the Muslims to fight jihad against the disbelievers. And this is not a defensive jihad. No, we're talking about, aggressive jihad, where you actually attack the enemy. So, and in Islamic Sharia law, in Sharia, according to jihad, you are only allowed as a Muslim state to keep a maximum peace contract, al-hudna, with the disbelievers for 10 years. And you're only allowed to do so if you are weak. And if you are not weak, you shouldn't sign any peace contract, and you should actually go ahead with jihad and expand the borders of the Islamic State.
So President Obama believes ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other terror groups have nothing to do with Islam. In fact, those in the Democratic Party, from Hillary Clinton, who's also running for the highest office in this country, Bernie Sanders and others, do not believe that these groups have anything to do with Islam. Is the President of the United States wrong when he says ISIS has nothing to do with Islam? Is he telling the truth? Is he telling America and the world the truth?
No, that is not the truth. And I have nothing against Obama. I'm not American, but I can tell you in this case, he's absolutely not telling the truth. And people who advise him, he maybe should consider who they are, because they are not the right people to be with him. Um, yeah, I can't say more than that.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Since the attacks in Paris, Beirut, Baghdad, we have yet to see any Muslim demonstrations against ISIS. In fact, just in the last 48 hours, we had at a soccer game where during a time of silence, a moment of silence, you had Turkish supporters, instead of marking the time of silence, they started chanting Allahu Akbar, which means God is great in Arabic. Why is it that you don't see Muslim leaders on the streets of Beirut or of Cairo or of Riyadh or Jeddah protesting against what we saw in Paris last week? Why aren't Muslim communities coming to the defense of the rest of the world and protesting against these radical Muslims?
This is a very good question. I can give you an example from Sharia that, the silence is acceptance. This is a wide known rule in Islam. Then when Prophet Muhammad saw an action and he was silent about it, it was his approval. This is from Sharia law. And when people hear me talking, they think I'm against, the moderate or the secular Muslims. I am not. In fact, I am only supporting the seculars by talking against Islam. It's Obama and it's the media, it's those so-called professors who are lying to all of us, who actually are destroying the hard work of the seculars, those who want to separate state and religion. So we should support these people. They are the minority in the Muslim world now. In fact, they've been prosecuted all over the Muslim world. They've been attacked because I have traveled through the last 16 years for the Muslim countries and the Muslim world, and I have seen how by years and years they became more and more religious, and that is obviously because of countries such as Saudi Arabia and Qatar and so on, who support the Saudi or the fundamentalistic Sunni interpretation of Islam.
So why don't you see these protests, Morten? Why don't you see these folks on the streets protesting against ISIS?
Well, you simply don't see them because I think I have to say that I think that they agree with it.
Really? You think they agree with what ISIS is doing?
Yes.
Wow. The FBI is now worried that ISIS could launch an attack here in the United States over the holidays. How likely is that?
It's very likely. I said yesterday on an American channel that we should expect new attacks within 2 weeks. And it happened just a few hours later. I have a feeling that, or a bad feeling that, and I do hope I'm wrong, but it's going to either be in this holiday in America or it's going to be for Christmas. People are opportunists, or those kind of terrorists are opportunists. They are the intent to create fear in people's heart. I know I will do that by saying that too, but I want people to be aware that there are enemies out there.
How do we defeat this enemy, Morten? How do we defeat this enemy?
It's a very good question. If it was me, and if I had the authorities, I would create a three-state solution in between Syria. I would simply take a land between Syria and Iraq and Turkey, and create this safe zone for refugees over there. And I would separate the Sunni, Shia, and Kurdish, and then have the Kurdish and seculars and other minorities living together. As for the Sunni and Shia, it's a bit too difficult for other minorities to live with them. It seems like they're being prosecuted all the time. And I think we can do that. Israel have built a wall against, to protect itself. It was very successful, and I think, we can do the same down there. I think we should ban, foreign fighters coming back again to our countries. We should cancel the citizenship once it is proven they have been out there. There should be no return to Europe or the West.
Should the United States be concerned? As you know, as a result of the attacks in Paris last week, there's this huge debate about these migrants, these refugees coming into Europe, into the United States. Should Europe close its borders to these refugees coming from Iraq and Syria?
You know, Syria also got other minorities, such as the Yazidis and the Kurds and the Christians, and the Christian Syrians. I will say that in Slovenia, the European country in Europe called Slovenia, they have refused to accept any Muslim migrants or refugees. They say we will only accept the Christians and the other minorities because we know from history and experience that they can integrate into our society and they can be a contribution to us. Mm-hmm. But as for the other ones, we will not allow them in. And I can't see any problems with that.
Mm-hmm. One last question. The intelligence services, they're very, very concerned about these so-called lone wolves. Are we able to stop them?
It's almost impossible to stop a lone wolf, and that you have seen that recent time in America where they attacked the military barracks, and you have people who just want to die and they don't tell other people about it. They think that this is their call and they will go to paradise and get the 72 virgins, and so they will go out on a killing spree and kill just people randomly. And I think that's what you're going to see in America in a very short time again.
Okay, the book is called Agent Storm, My Life Inside Al-Qaeda and the CIA. Morten Storm, thank you so much for giving our viewers a sense of what's going on. This is a man who's lived it, has gotten out of it, and now wants to tell the world the truth about it. Morten Storm, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast, and I hope you will come back again later.
Oh, always let me know. I'm ready to help.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.